everyone, my name is Lotus Sandoval, and I know what you're thinking. I thought your name was Melissa Diaz. You say it all the time in your other videos. What's changed? So what's changed is my name currently is still Melissa Diaz, but it will soon be legally changed to Lotus Sandoval. The reasons for this sudden change of name is a personal one, but that will be a story for another time. Before we commence this special video, I want to say thank you all so much for over 600 subscribers now. It's not a lot, but it's a path in the right direction. I know I may lack specific skills for doing this YouTube gig, but I promise things will improve with time. Here will be some special treats for helping me reach my subscription goals. Later on, things will be added on, so be patient with me. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate all the support. Now, without further ado, let's get into this video. Although on the surface, Megatron may appear and act villainous and heinous, his character can be more than meets the eye. Depending on which Transformer media you're consuming, some stories will make Megatron a hero, a villain, or a neutral. People would say if they're making Megatron become a hero or a neutral, he must be or is a boring villain in the franchise. Predictable and overrated. And that may be very true, but that doesn't mean that these new stories of Megatron aren't revolutionary. Although all TF media have similar takes on Megatron's origins and personalities, others do try and change it once in a while. Today we will go through each Megatron from different continuities that I love personally, and we will talk about these subjects: Megatron's voice, the origins of Megatron, the definition of Decepticonism, personalities, and character designs. Megatron's first appearance in television history was on the year September 17, 1984, in the Transformers TV series known to fans as G1. In this TV series, Megatron was a typical villain like many other villains during that age of cartoons. G1 Megatron's first voice actor is none other than Frank Welker, who is well known to be the voices of Scooby-Doo and Fred. Frank Welker reprises his Megatron role a few times throughout the years, but he's also well known to be the voice of Soundwave. Frank Welker gives Megatron a voice of someone who is older and malicious in nature. With his raspy and low-tempered voice, he gives one hell of a performance as a villain in the 80s era. In G1, Cybertron was a factory created by the Quintessons. The Quintessons made two races of mechanical robots, one that would do domesticated and labor work that were named Autobots, and the other were military usage named Decepticons. The Transformers race were abused by their creator, and as an act of justice, banished the Quintessons from the planet. For a time, there was peace until war broke out between the Autobots and the Decepticons. The Autobots wanted peace while the Decepticons wanted conquest. During this war, Megatron was created with the power of transformation and robot mode flight. Megatron began to lead the Decepticon into war from here on out, believing that this Transformers race and his leadership are meant to rule space and the entire universe with their infamous motto, peace through tyranny. So from my understanding, Decepticons were a race rather than a cause, so there weren't a Decepticon movement. But for the sake of answering the question, Decepticonism in G1 means to conquer and supremacy, that the strong will rule while the weak perish. The Decepticon motto, peace through tyranny, wasn't really said in the TV show, but instead it was stated in Megatron's tech specs card from his toy. Now, peace through tyranny means getting peace by any means necessary, and that implies force or control. To say that G1 Megatron wanted some kind of peace for him or his army is questionable. Was he tyrannical? Yes, but I don't believe he did it for the sake of peace. I don't really believe that G1 Megatron even knows the word, which comes down to his personality. Megatron wants to control the universe and defeat anyone who interferes that plan. He desires power, control, order, enslavement, and tyranny. Most Megatrons have these qualities to them. G1 Megatron can be very stubborn and easily angered. Some will say he lacks intelligence and military tactics because of how emotionally driven he is. And when he becomes Galvatron by Unicron, his desires and personalities are even more prevalent than ever. So much so that even his own henchman Cyclonus booked him for psychology appointments for his sanity. That's how insane and villainous G1 Megatron is. Which goes back to peace through tyranny. Megatron does not want peace. He only wants tyranny. What G1 Megatron lacks in certain department is nothing compared to his arrogance, dedication, strength, pride, and power. G1 Megatron can stand up and fight against Optimus Prime, who possesses the matrix of leadership. Megatron can survive extreme conditions and fight obstacles thrown at him. G1 Megatron may lack leadership and runs away from a battle he knows he can't win, but his villainous and dedication to the Decepticon cause are beyond extraordinary for any villain of his era. And not even his death could stop him. G1 Megatron's design is dark, imposing, and domineering. His helmet design was made to appear like he's always frowning and serious. His gray and black color palettes are a good use of the process of character design. He has dark colors to reflect his personality, but also uses red to imply his fury. He may not have the body shape of someone who is villainous, but his personality helps with what he lacks in body shape. Megatron's ult mode is a handgun, and that is one of the most genius, cleverest ideas ever conceived for a villain to transform. It is wonderful. It's great. It is so perfect for his character and his design. For being the first Megatron design, it is extraordinary. It's wonderful. It's fucking mwah, mwah, mwah. One of G1's Megatron's badass moments is, of course, when he killed Optimus Prime in the Transformers movie. Original Transformers movie. This scene was set up to be the last and epic fights between Optimus and Megatron. Not going to lie, but Megatron did had some help from Rodimus for killing Optimus Prime. But the fight between them was awesome. I also like how he didn't came out of the fight unharmed either. He was dying and weak. That's how you know that the fight was difficult for both of them. G1 Megatron had some savage moments in G1. He's a good back talker than a Decepticon leader. But one of my favorite moments is, well, let me just show you this shit.
Try this on for size. Shells. My equilibrium destabilized.
He's such a dramatic bitch. I love him so much. In the year September 16, 1996, a new change happened to the Transformers universe that people will come to love and respect. Beast Wars Transformers was meant to continue the timeline of G1 and give the established world of the Transformers more depth. It takes place in a distant future where the war has ended and a whole new war began against Maximals and the Predacons. This version of Megatron is not the same Megatron as G1, but an individual who was inspired by G1 Megatron and took up the name and followed his ideology. Beast Megatron is cunning and elegant, well-spoken, and has a charming voice, no thanks to the wonderful talents of David Kaye. David Kaye's voice range and pitch are phenomenal, and because of his talent, he can voice a lot of different characters. David Kaye is the only voice actor in the Transformers series to be voiced by both Optimus and Megatron. That's how good he is. When David Kaye does Megatron's voice, it is deep and sophisticated, so attractive and hot and sexy and all in all, David Kaye is in part with Frank Welker's performance, a true villain's voice for the 2000s era. There's little information about Beast Megatron's origins and why he decided to be evil. The TV show simply explained that Beast Megatron stole the golden disc that contained the message from his predecessor and plans to alter history by making the Decepticons win the Great War instead of the Autobots. Perhaps the only reason he is like this is because he is a Predacon. From my understanding, Predacons and Maximals have different coding from one another. From the many examples, the show tells us how the Maximals and Predacons are made by simply entering a code to the protoform by its maker, and you could be either one or the other. But the protoform has free will of its own as well. Although it may be a Predacon, it still has choices and morals in its spark. It knows the difference between wrong and right and chooses its life, denying its original coding, if it so chooses. Perhaps Beast Megatron stuck with his original coding and decided this is who he is and he loves it. It could be just as simple as just that. He loves being evil. The Predacons follow Decepticonism in their own way. Although the main core of it is still there to conquer and control, Beast Megatron introduces one of the most important values that Decepticonism is mostly well known for: the ideologies of robot supremacy and organic eradication. G1 Megatron didn't really hate organic life, he just hated everything weaker to him. But in Beast Machines, Beast Megatron outright says he hates organics. Just like his G1 role, Beast Megatron wants to control Cybertron and the entire universe. Beast Megatron is the first and only Megatron to achieve one of his goals, which is to conquer Cybertron for a temporary time. But it's still a victory nonetheless. Beast Megatron lacks strength and his ego is often the breaker of his plans, but what he lacks is justified by his intelligence and his cunning, qualities that G1 Megatron often lacks. Beast Megatron is also seen as comedic at times, and seems to like rubber ducks for some apparent weird reason, which if you don't find that likable, there's something wrong with you. G1 and Beast Megatron are both bold, dedicated, and motivated when it comes to world domination. Making Beast Megatron transform into a T-Rex is ingenious as well. The purple and black color palette are beautiful and makes him menacing and frightening. He has very angular shape to his body to better display his personality. Both of his T-Rex modes are wonderful except for his dragon design. His dragon design is cluttered and very straining in the eyes. It makes it difficult what you're looking at. He would sometimes blend with the background, which is a no-go. Overall, Beast Megatron is on par with G1 Megatron. One of Beast Megatron's badass moments is when he becomes his Dragon alt mode. He was getting bested by Optimus Primal and his own men were betraying him left and right. And he got dropped on some lava. We thought that was it for Megatron. But when he clapped it back with that alt mode, god damn. Again, not my favorite design, but it was a badass moment. Not only did he beat up his men that betrayed him, but he was getting all up in Optimus Primal's face. Such a good comeback. I fucking love it. One of my favorite moments is, let me just show you, this shit cannot be explained in 2 words.
You there! Yes, finish installing that shielding plate. No, there, yes, there, right there. Do you understand? Yes, there, now use the wrench to fasten it down.
Wrench?
Oh, the wrench, you imbecilic anthropoid. Whatever.
I never fucking agreed to this, you outrageous, pathetic excuse of life. Like I'd rather side with Optimus Prime with my optics gouged out. A what? He is a roach that can't die. What do you think I feel about him? I like the way you think, organic. The more me out there in other dimensions, the better the multiverse will be corrected. But if I had to say my favorite, I would have to say Prime Megatron. We share the same way of thinking, and because he has dark energy, I like to get high too. G1 Megatron is a weak link. I am surprised he even has an army. Fuck this shit, I'm out!
In the year August 23, 2002, Transformers Armada made its mark by setting up the Unicron trilogy, which means fans either love it or hate it. I'm with a certain group of people who love and hate it. I love Armada, but I hate the sequels like most of the fans do. Once again, David K. reprises his role as Megatron. Although his Megatron's voice remains the same, it's slightly hotter because of Megatron's design, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. There is little information about Armada Megatron's origins and why he decided to be evil. The TV show simply explained that he wanted to control the race of smaller, power-enhancing Transformers called Minicons, so they could help him conquer Cybertron and the universe. So we have another Megatron who is villainous for the sake of being villainous. In Transformers Armada, Decepticonism follows their motto from the G1. It isn't so much of peace through tyranny, but more like a conquer and supremacy. So there is really nothing else to add to what Decepticon means to them. In this series, Armada Megatron is more of how we see him nowadays. He's intelligent, cunning, funny, charming, strong, manipulative, and powerful. This is the first time in the show we get to see Megatron having a soft side to his personality as well. His relationship with Starscream is complicated to say the least. In past shows, Megatron always treated his followers and soldiers badly, just subordinates that can easily be replaceable. And Starscream was usually the victim of Megatron's wrath. Starscream's abuse is meant for laughs and is seen as nothing more than a loser who wants to be a leader but fails every time. But this show makes Starscream's abuse and torments at the hands of Megatron tragic. When Starscream finally stands up to Megatron about this, Megatron treats him badly again. When Starscream tries to convince Megatron to join forces with the Autobots to stop Unicron, Megatron doesn't take him seriously yet again until in his last words beg him and compare his leadership with Optimus Prime. When Starscream dies, Megatron feels conflicted, taking Starscream's words to heart and reflecting on how he treated Starscream. Megatron finally gives respect to Starscream and honors his death by granting his final wish and fight alongside the Autobots. He even scolds other Decepticons for disrespecting Starscream when he dies. This Megatron shows heart. He can be caring and can honor those he lost. This Megatron shows that under all his villainous and evil ways, he is still human. Armada Megatron wasn't just evil, he was a man with morals to achieve. These morals were villainous, of course, but he still had a heart. Not all villains are evil by nature. Armada Megatron's design is not the best, but it has grown on me over the years. It's not that bad, and I do like the change on his design. I like the antler on his heads, and I like his color palette. It's solid. His anime face and his voice kinda makes up for his basic design, but it's still a decent design. So this not might be a badass moment, like he didn't do any ass kicking, but it shows his character and some self-awareness. One of Armada's Megatron's badass moments, plus my favorite moment, is when he confronts Thrust when he betrayed the Decepticon cause to join Unicron. He didn't do any ass kicking, but he did put that bitch in his place and made it into a badass moment. I don't want to say Thrust deserved his death because he was bullied and mistreated by Megatron a lot, but his leap to power is what caused his death in the first place, and Megatron saw that. In the entire interaction, Thrust was just monologuing and yelping on about how much power he has now, and telling Megatron he is a bad leader. Which in all honesty, he is, but we get to see that Thrust was in a bad place at the wrong time, because the fucker got stuck and is about to get crushed to death. And Megatron's final words to him was, "Thrust, if you dare to have dreams of power, you will be consumed by them," as he walked away. I love this scene so fucking much. It's a badass moment and one of my favorite moments in Armada. It's great. Like, it's not my top favorite scene. Of course, my favorite scene was Starscream's death, but this is like second best. This is such a badass moment. I can't put to words. I just can't. I'm stuttering a mess. On December 26, 2007, one of the best Transformers shows was created. Transformers Animated. And it's one of my favorite incarnations of Megatron. Animated Megatron's voice actor this time around is Corey Burton, and I couldn't get more turned on by this version of his voice. Corey Burton is well known to be the voice of Dale from Chip and Dale and Captain Hook from Peter Pan. He also voiced Shockwave and Spike Witwicky in G1 amongst others as well. Corey Burton's voice of Megatron is that of a much older man, much older than G1 Megatron, but yet his voice is intimidated and confident, so cunning and strong, smooth and sexy. I would like to say his voice is the ideal voice of Megatron in the modern era. Did I also mention his voice is sexy? Again, there's little information about animated Megatron's origins and why he decided to be evil. Many would theorize what it is, including myself. Some would say he was inspired by a previous Decepticon leader. Some would say he and his Decepticon kind were mistreated by the Autobot race. If you want to learn more, check out this video about it. I know you noticed, but you'll start to see a pattern with earlier Megatrons that they don't really have an origin story for their villainy, which is fine for the most part. Villains don't need a deeper meaning for being evil. Sometimes they're just evil because they want power or because they just can. Modern Megatron is now written with purpose and with a tragic past, which is fine as well. But I have to admit, I miss seeing Megatron being evil because he just loves being evil. No past, no oppression, just because he can. In Animated, Megatron tries to give reasons for his villainy, but this is overshadowed by his questionable actions of destruction. In Animated, Decepticonism is about wanting power and peace through tyranny and whatnot. Animated Megatron truly follows the model of peace through tyranny, doing whatever he can, even if he is seen as a villain, to achieve peace. Knowing full well what his past could be, it makes sense for him to follow this ideology, making him the first animated Megatron to truly understand peace through tyranny. But there is a flaw to that since the show does not explain his past. I like to believe animated Megatron uses the peace through tyranny model as leverage to commit his villainy. He manipulated the cause that was built for peace so that he could commit crimes against nature. And he ended up manipulating everyone to follow his path and have them believe that what they were doing was for a noble cause. And there is a reason why Megatron would do such a thing. Animated Megatron is the first Megatron in the show to display how evil he can be. He uses his intelligence to do all the crimes rather than his strength. His greatest personality is he is a manipulator. He manipulates Isaac Sumdac, Bulkhead, and everyone around him into thinking he is good at heart, but he's not. He's dangerous, power-hungry, destructive, and very much selfish. And I love him because of that. Animated Megatron's design. Hot damn, oh my goodness. Oh! His color palette is beautiful. Such a simple design that has an impact. Tiny waist, big chest, broad shoulders. I'm sorry, I'm just being so swooned by his design and his voice. Don't get me started on his voice again, man. He sounds like a Delph. He sounds like a Delph. Oh my god. This man follows the process of character design because of this guy right here, Derek J. Wyatt. God bless his soul. Rest in peace, legend. He knows how to make a good character design. This is fucking beyond words. One of animated Megatron's badass moments is when he was killing Starscream left and right while giving that badass speech. I wish I can show it to you, but sadly I cannot because Hasbro will be up my ass, so I recommend looking at this video to see that moment I'm talking about. The moment before this one was also good. It's when he kills Starscream the second time, where he said, and I quote, "Is that the best you can do, Starscream? And to think you actually believe you can take over as leader of the Decepticons. You couldn't lead a parade." God damn, was that a roaster or what? Starscream, you old pig. Megatron got you cooked up, my boy, ready to be eaten. God damn, boy. One of my favorite moments is of course the final showdown of Optimus and Megatron. Like, the entire two-parter of Endgame was so fucking amazing. Megatron was so unfazed with Optimus' attempts to stop his plans of using the Omega Supreme clones that he was literally calling Optimus a cheap imitation of Ultra Magnus. Mind you, in that specific scene, he was like, "Holy shit, is that Ultra Magnus? Why the fuck is he here?" when he saw Optimus wielding the Magnus hammer. But he immediately chilled out when he saw it was Optimus. But once Optimus started to clap back on his ass, Megatron finally acknowledges Optimus as his rival and even calls him by his name now. Mind you again, that throughout the whole show, he always called Optimus an Autobot. So hearing him say his name was such a fucking shocker to me. I was so hyped up. Megatron survived being exploded not once, but twice now. And he still wanted to kill Optimus. Holy shit, Megatron. You are a hard motherfucker. God damn, boy, chill the fuck out and let that man breathe. This Megatron is such a hard ass, a bad ass motherfucker. Why the fuck was this show canceled? That is not fucking fair.
How the hell did I get here? I like her loyalty and admiration, but if she gets near me, I will fucking end her. They're all shit at leading and doing what is best for the Decepticon cause. They lack the skills and intelligence to get the job done. I refuse to even share the same name as them, but if I have to choose, I guess IDW Megatron. I like the determination there. Fuck! Prime Megatron! I refuse to believe this is me. I don't give a flying fucking Starscream. I do not turn into that! Motherfucker made me look dumb as hell. Enough to make me forget and refuse that fucker is me. What the fuck are you talking about, you pathetic organic? I really want to kill him. I really want to tear his spark in two, twist his limbs, rip out his head, and Why the hell did your inferior parasite master not talk about me? You fat rodent! Bullshit!
In October 2005, IDW comic books began their timeline and stories for the Transformers series. Some of the comics they have made are perfect while others not so much, yet they made one of the longest running continuity ever in the Transformers series, making less well-known Transformers characters come to light and giving them more character and making well-known characters more depth and purpose. But one of the most popular comic books and fan favorites is that of James Roberts' Transformers More Than Meets the Eye, released on January 11, 2012. Transformers More Than Meets the Eye is one of the best Transformers stories ever told, and is the best thing that has ever happened in the Transformer world. IDW gave Megatron a backstory that modern fans are well known with. Megatron's origins, released on June 2007, gave a reason for Megatron to start the war and form the Decepticon movement. Megatron lived on Cybertron with a caste system ruled over by a group of Cybertronians called the Functionists. The Functionists believed a Transformers class and job should depend on their alt mode. Frustrated by the discrimination, a young Megatron began to write his famous book called Towards Peace, which talks about the corruption of their society and how to fix it. In his spare time, Megatron would also write poetry under an alias. Of course, Cybertronians were influenced by his book and started to name themselves Decepticon and start to revolt against the console and the Functionists. I will leave out some of the key details about Megatron's origins because I encourage people to read Megatron's origins and More Than Meets the Eye. But what especially caused the war was during a bar fight, Megatron was sent to prison, and there he was beaten up by a guard named Worrell. There, Megatron was convinced that to bring change into his home, they must use violence and force. And from there, Megatron's actions of violence was forged for the sake of peace to his home. Megatron's thirst for violence and power corrupted him as the war went on, and became the very thing he set out to destroy. I could very much say that the peace through tyranny model was meant for the IDW Megatron. The way his origins were written to reflect that model and made him believe that his violence was for the sake of peace in the beginning is a masterpiece and elegantly written. But over millions of years of constant war, the model became irrelevant, and instead of wanting peace, Megatron wanted power and control. Megatron followed his model to the very end until he decided to be an Autobot. Once an Autobot, Megatron begins to reflect on his life and slowly yet surely earns his redemption. At the very end of the comic book, Lost Light, Megatron follows his new ideology called Peace Through Empathy. Instead of violence to get peace, he uses his words instead. He became his younger self again, a person who uses his words to make an impact. Decepticonism was at first about revolution, change, and emancipation. It was about freedom. As the war grew, Decepticonism is now about conquering, control, power, and robot supremacy. The strong will live and thrive as the weak are enslaved and die. Megatron's personality varies through the phases you are reading the comic books. During the war, Megatron is ruthless, cruel, powerful, badass, awesome, and cool. What I'm trying to say is that he is the superior Megatron in all of Transformers. This Megatron gets the job done. His hatred for organics is more pronounced here, causing the extinction of many organisms throughout the galaxy during the war, which other Megatrons haven't really done. Megatron would punish his soldiers in the most cruelest ways, but most especially towards Starscream. Unlike other Starscream and Megatron's dynamics, this one is hinted at more of abusive and real-life situations, rather than playing it for laughs or Starscream deserves it. It plays as Armada's situation, but is more realistic. Megatron is not someone to be taken lightly in this incarnation. He is insane and fucked up, very intelligent and manipulative, and demeans everyone. He only cares about himself. In More Than Meets the Eye, Megatron finally realizes his truthfulness and tries to change. It's not perfect and he doesn't get it right the first time, but over the course of the series, Megatron makes small changes to his personalities and morals. But if others around him call him a hero or seizes that he has truly changed, he still feels guilty. His self-doubt is his biggest obstacle, an obstacle he probably never overcomes. IDW Megatron's designs varies from comic to comic. They are all good in their own ways and are very similar to their G1 counterparts. So you know it's cool, but I do want to highlight two designs especially. His Spotlight design and his More Than Meets the Eye designs. Megatron's Spotlight design is unique and different and reflects more of his character than ever. His black and purple color scheme is beautiful. It gives off power and danger. His tall structure is intimidating. It's such a good design for a villain. More Than Meets the Eye Megatron's design. Oh my god. IDW Megatron has a lot of badass moments in this series. Most of his badass moments is when he's putting people in their place, like Blitzscream and Skywarp, Devastator, Ramjet, and Starscream. Always Starscream. But one of his biggest badass moment is when he's fighting the D-Void. For those who haven't read the IDW Transformers 2005 continuity, the D-Void, and let me paraphrase this from the TF Wiki, is a mysterious dark entity that resides within the shadows of the dead universe, and is the personification of it. It eats life to satisfy its hunger. It is described as being an unbelievably powerful being with the capability to return the sparks to a deceased transformer, control the minds of robotic beings, and drain energy from Cybertronians to feed on them. So this thing was able to combine the Decepticon soldiers into this massive blob, mind control them to attack anything in sight, and force other living beings to combine themselves to it. And the only thing that was standing in its way from doing that was the Megatron. And not only Megatron was able to resist the mind control, but he was able to defeat it. What a fucking badass. And his speech when he announced that he was motherfucking Megatron was the ultimate fucking GOAT. Let's go! One of my favorite moments is in Transformers More Than Meets the Eye issued 54 and 55, and those who have read it knows what I'm talking about. Imagine you were a world-destroying being with an army on your back and you were unstoppable, but you gave that shit up because you realized that you were a monster. You tried to change your ways and was making progress because you thought you were under the influence of a drug that was making you go soft. But soon enough, your fanboy simp came along and was trying to fuck up your happiness and character development, and realized that you weren't under the influence of a happy drug, and everything you did at that point was from your own free will. What do? A. Let that bitch boy simp kill you and your supporters that was trying to help you change. B. Use your newfound good guy powers and talk yourself out of it by singing a song that you can make a change. Or C. Be a fucking badass and put them bitches back in their place. I fucking love this series, man.
Yo, Frank, what the fuck is this bullshit, man?
Oh shit, I know that guy. What'd it do?
You gotta make a fucking video, man!
I'm clearly busy right now with my friends.
Shut the fuck up and get your ass home, man!
Shit. Fine.
Nah, come back here. Where the fuck you going, nigga?
You know Papa's gonna come back. You know Papa's always looking out for everybody.
Fucking filthy ass nigga.
Alright, let's relax
Now,
now.
back the fuck up right now.
Now it don't gotta be like this.
I don't care about your video,
got a video,
nigga.
fam.
I got you, fam.
Hey,
Now it's not a game, huh? Cause Papa got a brand new toy?
It's not a game.
This isn't a game.
No, it's filthy Frank, baby. We all good.
Give me the Tims.
Nah,
Give me the Tims. Give me the Tims right now.
not the Timbs.
Damn, this nigga done took the Timbs, man. This nigga just deadass took a nigga's Timbs.
You don't fuck with me. Now if you excuse me, I got a video to do.
On December 29, 2010, Transformers Prime made its mark for being a fan favorite show. Although some may disagree with it, and some say it's a very average show with many flaws, the fan base is split because of it. Nonetheless, it's a show of a modern era. Frank Welker reprises his Megatron role once again, but this time he gives Megatron a deeper and less raspy voice than his G1 counterpart. His voice is more suitable for a villain's voice in the modern era. Nothing too sexy, but it's just right to be intimidated and feared. In the show, Prime Megatron's origins are questionable. In a flashback, Ratchet tells the children that in the golden age of Cybertron, inequality and corruption was in the high-class places. Megatron was a gladiator and he demanded all Cybertronians to be treated equally. Megatron's ideas inspired many Cybertronians. When he became political and appeared on the High Council, his true colors were revealed. He wanted a just society to overthrow the current government by force, and arrogantly demanded to be the next Prime. This idea was, however, stopped by Orion Pax. Their Megatron became bitter, waged war against the government, and vowed to take the Matrix for himself. This portrayal, however, is biased and wrong. According to the Transformers Exodus, Megatron and his fellow low-class peers were treated like slaves. For them to have some recognition of their nameless and useless lives, they entered gladiatorial pits. That's how bad it was. If you were low class, you wouldn't describe this age as the Golden Age. It was called the Rust Age instead. Megatron wanted a change for his people. He wasn't selfish or power hungry. He was concerned for his peers and their lives. So when Megatron appeared in front of the High Council, who hated him at this point and recommended his ideas that threatened their control and power over Cybertron, of course they were going to dismiss it and favor Orion Pax's ideas for peaceful solutions. Orion Pax was a high-class individual who didn't understand the true suffering of Megatron and his peers. He was learning and knew about it, but he could never understand them. Megatron hated the High Council because they didn't care about his people. He had every good reason to be upset and angry at them when they didn't listen to him. But he was even more hurt when Orion Pax betrayed him. He felt manipulated and believed Orion would not change Cybertron for the better. So he had to take matters into his own hands by rallying his people and forming the Decepticon and go to war. You could see that the aligned continuity in Prime took a lot of inspiration from IDW, but made it slightly tamer. Basically, what Decepticonism means for Prime is the same thing that means for IDW. They correlate so well that both know the true ways of peace through tyranny. Now looking at it, Megatron does turn good in both continuities, but the aligned continuity does it pretty badly. So Prime Megatron's personality is just like G1 Megatron. He doesn't have the same cunning or intelligence as IDW or the animated or even Armada. And yeah, he is really bad at manipulating people. He tried to manipulate Orion Pax, but he was so bad at it that it didn't even last for more than 2 episodes. Megatron is an idiot and gets high on dark energon to achieve his goals, but I do enjoy some of the better personalities of being a hype man. He's very self-absorbed and arrogant, and I like that about him. Prime Megatron would have won the war years ago if he wasn't such a fucking idiot. He sabotages his own plan. I just love him. He has a huge ego. Prime Megatron's design is unique to say the least. I do enjoy a Megatron with a tiny waist. His sharp and spiky character design reflects well on his personality. I love his lazy eye effect. Some say it's bad animation, but I like to say it's what he has. Just like Armada, his design is solid. It's a good design for a villain. The colors and shapes are wonderful as always. Not all Megatron is supposed to be attractive, hot, sexy, handsome, dilf, hunky, juicy, huge, and fine. Oh shit. As long as Megatron is evil and gets shit done, his design will not matter. But give him that sexy voice though. So one of Prime's Megatron's badass moment is, well, when he lifted up the Soulless Hammer when Bulkhead couldn't. I guess that was a badass moment. Okay, but all seriousness, his badass moment is when he fights the Unicorn clones and saves Optimus Prime's asshole. His entrance was so unexpected, but his decision to work with the Autobots was a predictable one, but he was still a badass nonetheless. Another honorable mention is when he fought the Insecticon. That man kept on hyping himself and kept on bragging how good of a gladiator back on Cybertron that no one can never beat. He's such a narcissist. Although the fight scene was a little whack, I still like it nonetheless. One of my favorite moments is of course the many times he gets high on Dark Energon. Like that man is addicted to that shit. I mean, look at that. Look at that shit. He needs to go to rehab. I also like his face right here. I love the scene of him. It's when Optimus gets his chunky hands on the Star Saber while Megatron was dragging his ass trying to get it. And when Optimus split the rock like the motherfucker was Moses, Megatron was like, God damn, I'm fucked. We are fucked. Anyways, love this scene. 10 out of 10. Yo, it's Melissa here. You didn't expect this, didn't you? So yeah, I just couldn't be bothered to dress up, honestly. I felt fucking lazy, and it takes a whole fucking process to put the mask on, put the fucking entire shit. This is unmasked raw me. It's just I know I look crusty as fuck, but I don't give a fuck. I couldn't be bothered, honestly. I'm just fucking tired. But today we're going through this tweet I saw on Twitter, and it really pisses me off for some apparent reason, but it just did. And since this tweet is regarding about Megatron, I decided to just include this on the hour-long Megatron video because, you know, I wanted to make it 1 hour, so extending it. But this segment or this fucking video was gonna be its own thing, its own video, obviously. But I decided, well, it's about Megatron, so might as well include it here. But yeah, so this is about a tweet that I saw. And this individual is a apagender lesbian, whatever the fuck that means. You know my take on the LGBTQ premium plus membership shit, and my stance on gender roles and shit like that. You already know. If you don't know, watch my fucking videos. It's not that hard to find. But this particular person has a problem with Megatron's backstory regarding his minor backstory, the D16 backstory. For those of you that don't know, D16 is basically the name Megatron was given before, like when he was a minor working in the mines and stuff like that. That was his, I guess, his minor name. I'm not 100% sure. But that's who he was before he was Megatron. Before he was given the name, he was D16. But, you know, I don't really refer to him as D16, I just refer him as Megatron like most people, and it's easy to remember because it's fucking Megatron. I'm not gonna remember D16 that well. So, like, Megatron. I always refer him as Megatron, not D16, but that's basically what D16 is. So this particular person has a problem with that particular origin, which is from the Align continuity and IDW continuity. I'm not gonna name drop this person because they might get a lot of hate. So, I say that they might get a lot of hate if I expose them, but this person got over 2.3k likes on this tweet, and I'm like, those people have a fucking problem, obviously. But I have this Twitter, I have this Twitter, I downloaded the fucking Twitter page and like did notes on it like I'm like a fucking high schooler, you know. This video is not unscripted, obviously, with my stuttering and stumbling all over the place. If you hear noises in the back, just, I apologize in advance. I live with people, get used to it. This person has a lot of fucking... I don't know if this person wrote this tweet as, like, rage bait or something. Because, obviously, who the fuck comes up with this shit? Like, I never would have thought someone would actually believe this and stuff like that. But I'm getting ahead of myself, obviously. But, like, yeah, I have, like, fucking notes here. I'm just gonna read my notes that I added and just my bullet points and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna read through and add, like, unspoken takes, you know. So this is it. So let's just jump into this, going and shit. So, D16, the meaning and importance of Megatron's most mishandled origins. That was the first opening. Okay, mishandled origins, according for them. This thread will primarily focus on the aligned continuity with brief mentions of IDW. Former's origins is necessarily the same, which I highlighted here. Both have different takes on it. I wouldn't say they're the same, but like I feel like they started off, they have the basics, the base of it that's the same. Well, you know, IDW and the aligned continuity handles the minor Megatron, the D16 Megatron, as their own separate thing. So it's not, all they have in common is that Megatron was a minor. That's basically what they have in common. Other than that, I wouldn't consider it they're the same, but they do have, that's it. That they're basically the same, but not really. Not really at all. As the formal origins is necessarily the same as its pitfalls. I don't know what the fuck pitfalls means. I don't know, like downfall, I guess. And since align is primarily where my knowledge lies, so their knowledge is mostly the aligned continuity. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, okay? That will be a thing. That will be a huge important thing that they made later on in the tweet, or in the thread, or whatever the fuck it's called. First of all, it generally is fine if you dislike or like Megatron or D16 origins. However, conversation in regards to the origin should be handled with care and respect. Allow me to explain why. Here we go, bro. Let's get into this shit. The origin is a metaphor for racism, classism, and things of the like. And racism? I don't think so. Like, how is it regarding racism? Because from my knowledge, Cybertronians don't have any cultures or ethnicity, so maybe they do, but like, they're not really being discriminated because their point of origins or how the color of their skin, like, they don't even, they have different colors, so I don't think it's mostly about racism. I don't think there's no racism elements to it. It's just mostly classism. Megatron is a minor, not allowed his own name, forced into slavery and an occupation without choice due to the system. But it's also due to his alt mode as well that he's forced into an occupation. So the thing about the system is that whatever alt mode you were born with, basically forged, that is the occupation you're gonna have forever. It doesn't matter if you fucking hate the occupation, you're gonna be in that occupation for the rest of your fucking life. So they're kind of like restricted with their alt mode. So the huge part of it is the system, but it's also their alt mode that they were born with. So yeah. Said system functionism is a corrupted one that functions off discrimination of people based on their bodily differences. Bodily differences? Why would you say it like that? Just say alt mode, honestly. That's so fucking weird that they say bodily differences. It's not really, I guess, but not really. It's just alt mode. Just say alt mode, you stupid shit. With bots of aerial vehicles being elite class and sent off to military, and those who were not off into the mines. It is a system where Cybertronians are oppressed, discriminated against for physical differences. No physical differences, just alt mode, bro. All alt modes leading to their occupations worth being determined, i.e. racism, classism. No racism. Okay, no. We made that clear, no racism. Megatron himself is a revolutionary who wishes to end the corrupted system and bring freedom, peace through tyranny. He understands that the system cannot be fixed. It was made to oppress, so it must be burned down and built back up. To achieve peace and freedom is to deceive the deceivers and force tyranny to the tyrannical, which, makes sense because, it's proven throughout history that war leads to change. Like, I know war is a bad thing, I understand that, but war does lead into change. And you can debate me on like, oh, war is a bad thing, we shouldn't be war, but it's kind of ingrained in us humans that war leads to change and war leads to results. That's the reality of it. Regardless if you hate it or not, that's the reality of it. And here they posted an image of War for Cybertron, Megatron Explains Decepticonism. It's what's the comics? I think it was the prequel comics of War for Cybertron. Here it is. You can read it for yourself. I'm not going to bother reading it because I just recommend people reading it for themselves, and just that. I'm not going to go through all that. But yeah, they attached that image of that explaining, basically Megatron explaining Decepticonism. That's what it is. The inherent problem is that Megatron with this goal cannot be pure evil, and if they are, it must be done correctly. Something which is not in the case in the official material, as I will explain now. The pitfalls of D16 Megatron come forth when the character who has been oppressed and enslaved proceeds to oppress and enslave, falling to exact same thing he wanted to destroy. Okay, so that was a lot to take in. So many revolutionaries weren't good people in general. There weren't not all revolutionaries were good people. Some of them were evil bastards, like George Washington, and dare I say Adolf Hitler. Like, you have to acknowledge that at some point Adolf Hitler did a lot of good too. Like, he helped Germany during the Great Depression. He made a lot of advanced scientific discoveries. He did a lot of good too, but he also is a fucking fucked up human being, and he's evil as well. So he did a lot of good, but at the same time he did more bad than good. So that's what I was trying to say. So I would like to say that Megatron, the D16 Megatron, is kind of based off Hitler, because they both started off with good intentions, but then they completely went overboard with power. It's common that power makes one corrupted and lose sight of logic. So it's very common throughout history that people that have power usually let the power go through their heads and make some fucked up decisions, right? Even like politicians today, like presidential candidates, often say a lot of things during their presidential election, but once they become presidents, they don't actually do shit, they don't actually do the promises that they did while being elected. But when they are elected, they don't do jack shit. So it is ingrained into human society where people that want power often lie and deceive people to get into that power. But for Megatron's instant, he did want to change for his people, but when he got power, he let the power corrupted him so much so that he became fucking pure evil. And people often do that. A lot of people do that. It's a very common theme throughout history that people with power often make up some bad decision. So I don't know what the fuck they're talking about there, and yes, there are revolutionaries where this has happened in history. So what is your point then? People of color, the people Megatron's story is meant to represent, do not need the negative spotlight, and Megatron is not written in a manner which showcase the paralleling those figures was the intent. So what the fuck are you talking about? Megatron is not supposed to represent people of color. He isn't discriminated against because of his ethnicity or skin color. They discriminate him because of his alt molds and because of his alt. The thing about his alt mode is that his alt mode is viewed as being replaceable and very inferior, okay? He's not discriminated against because of his belief, his color, his fucking skin color, not the way he looks, not his personality. He is discriminated against because of his occupation and his alt mode. That is why he's being discriminated against. It's like factory workers. Like for factory workers, and if like people have many stories of working with Amazon and working for like any type of factory, that if you don't do what they tell you to do, they'll say you better do it or else you'll get fired and you'll be easily replaced. It's very common for like big corporations like Walmart, Amazon, any factory, any like occupation, like minimum wages and stuff like that. They always tell you like, if you don't do this or if you don't extend your hours, we're going to fire you because you are replaceable. It's very common, and it's not because they are discriminated against. It's not because of their skin color. It's not about racism. It's just how it is. That's corporation for you. That is the system. If you don't do your job, you are easily replaceable to them. That is why he's being discriminated against, because of his alt mode and his occupation. And for Cybertronians, if you lose your occupation, what are you meant for? Like if you lose your job, you have no meaning in life, because your alt mode is your entire meaning. And like Megatron was trying to break free from that, from like being restricted to your alt mode, where you can have like many possibilities. You can do whatever you want freedom without being restricted to your alt mode. That is why he's being discriminated against, and that is why he wants freedom, because of his alt mode and the system that revolves around alt mode and the occupations for it. It's not because of their fucking skin color or racism or stuff like that. It's not about people of color. What the fuck does that even mean? I don't understand. That's such a stupid way to view it as. Like, what D16 Megatron's origin is trying to parallel with factory workers and working in general. Working in low-class, minimum wage paying work is. That is basically what it's trying to represent. It's not representing people of color or discriminating against like people's ethnicity or culture, whatever the fuck. It's not even about that, honestly. So their point is invalid. It's extremely invalid. Okay. In the case of IDW Megatron, oh, here it goes. You better. This is why I said. You remember what I said to keep the other shit in mind? Here's where it plays out. Okay, let's get into this. In the case of IDW Megatron, allows the creation of the Phase Sixers, Cybertronians modified specifically to commit mass genocide and subjugate and enslave entire worlds to the Decepticon cause. And me haven't read IDW all that much. I haven't read it like all of it, but I do know that Megatron don't really enslave inferior beings. He just straight up kills them, because fucking common knowledge. If you enslave a being, they're going to cause a riot and they're going to do some revolutionary shit. And Megatron would know that because he's been through that. So I think he might have some common sense to not enslave beings. That's just my opinion. I don't think Megatron is entirely fucking stupid, you know. It's just illogical. I don't think he's gonna do that. And from the comic books I read so far, I don't think he ever enslaved anyone. I just don't think he did that. I mean, he just kills them. He commits genocide, yes, but I don't think he enslaves one. And the whole phase sixers, I think that's irrelevant. I don't think that argument coincides with your argument. So I don't fucking know. I don't know. It is out of character, illogical, and repulsive. Well then. IDW Megatron betrays his ideals entirely and loses his way with no major events or changes, entirely forsaking why he fought in the first place. There's no way in hell you said that. Did you read the comic books? Did you read Megatron's origins? Did you read More Than Meets the Eye? Like, did you read other comic books that deeply explains his origins? Did you not read that? There were many fucking major events that caused him to be fucking fucked up and crazy. And let me list them for you. He lost Terminus. Terminus was his fucking mentor. Terminus was everything for Megatron because Terminus inspired Megatron to be who he is today. Well, not the evil sense, but being a revolutionary, being like freedom, wanting freedom and stuff like that. And when he lost Terminus, that was the end game. And just it wasn't the end game, but his worldview started to fucking change after he lost Terminus. This is where bad shit starts to come in. He got beaten up in jail by Whirl, who said to him that violence solves everything. And he took that to fucking heart because he got beaten up. He was being laid off by the government in C-12. So basically, he was losing his occupation when the government laid him off, or in this case, the Functionist. And having no job is like you have no existence anymore. The system views you as an inferior, so that is a fucking bad thing. And seeing his fellow miner being beaten to death by an Autobot guard, that is where he fucking clicked. And that's where he killed his first Autobot. And that's where everything clicked for him. So I don't know why the fuck you said there was no major events. There were a lot of fucking major events that caused his worldviews to fucking change. And once that changed, that power got into his fucking head because he believed he was unstoppable. Once he killed Sentinel Prime, and once he killed like all of these other fucking protesters that were against him, that is where he started to fucking change. And it's very common. It's very common, like I said. So I don't know why the fuck you even said that. I felt very offended when this person or whatever the fuck said that. In the case of a line, TFP, which is Transformers Prime, Megatron is better in the lowest possible sense. You did not just compare Prime and IDW. You did not just say that Prime Megatron is better than IDW Megatron. You did not just say that. If you read at least a piece of IDW comic book about Megatron, you would know that IDW Megatron is like the best fucking Megatron out there. He is the best in all of the shows, all of the comics. IDW Megatron is like the most well-written and well fucking developed character. And he's the best Megatron because he is a fucking badass. He did a lot of fucking badass. He had a lot of badass moments, and he fucking. I just love IDW Megatron, and to this person compare IDW to fucking Prime Megatron. Really, fucking Prime Megatron, not War for Cybertron Megatron, because for me, I consider War for Cybertron Megatron and Prime Megatron to be two separate Megatrons because they have their own kind of origins. Because you could probably, I already said this, but it's kind of like Ratchet being biased, but like of like the origins of Megatron and why he decided to be fucking evil. But I feel like that is what they wanted from Prime. That was his origin story, that he was just a bitter bitch. While War for Cybertron Megatron really goes into Decepticonism and why he wanted to do that. And I feel like those two Megatrons, the War for Cybertron Megatron and Prime Megatron, are two different things. But this person framed it as the Align Continuity, or TFP, Transformers Prime Megatron, is better than IDW Megatron. Like, that pisses me off. Like, Prime Megatron is just a bitter bitch, honestly. He was just bitter that he just didn't get the Matrix. And like comparing him to like what? There's no comparison. There's honestly no fucking comparison. I don't understand why they... Let's fucking move on. I'm losing my voice, okay? We're almost done. We're almost fucking done. Transformers Prime Megatron, while better in consistently sticking to his ideals, never breaking them as explicitly, it is still portrayed as pure evil. And frankly, that's because the people writing them weren't people of color and just needed a scary villain. Which, you're going into some racist shit right now. That is totally irrelevant. Who the fuck cares if people of color didn't write these stories? It don't fucking matter. It doesn't... No, just no. And attempts genocide twice. First at the end of Transformers Prime Season 2 and again at the end of 3. Megatron is, in both continuity, is provided a reasonable goal with understanding motivation representing people of color. Again, Megatron is a robot. He is not supposed to represent people of color. He is not, like, he doesn't have no ethnicity. He's not a fucking people of color. He's a fucking robot. So stop portraying him as he was human. He's a fucking robot. Just to make that clear. Again. Megatron in both continuity is provided a reasonable goal with understanding motivation representing people of color and oppressed groups. And yet, either due to the required status quo, fear of committing to the origins laid out, or simply because the writers behind it are white, capitalized, and cannot relate to the material. Again, who the fuck cares if the writers are white or people of color? That shit is completely irrelevant. He is reduced to an evil monstrosity, an oppressed man who became the oppressor. And like, that whole rant about people of color didn't write this because they weren't oppressed, like people of color didn't write this because or white people, whatever the fuck the logic is. You cannot stop writers from writing the stories that they want to write because of their skin color. That is the most stupidest thing I've ever heard, because in this modern age, you, me, and anyone that is lower than the age of 70 or 80 has never been oppressed, never had extreme racism or classism to that extent. We don't live that anymore. We don't have like these extreme racism of like back in the fucking 80s or 90s or 70s. We don't live that anymore. We're in the modern era, so it don't fucking matter. And again, who the fuck cares what writers write, you know? It's all about what their knowledge of the subject. That's all that matters, is that if they know the material that they're writing. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter if they're white, they're black, they're Asian, they're Mexican. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what race they are. As long as they're knowledgeable of what they're writing, that's all that matters. Someone of color can go on with their lives never being oppressed, like me. I'm Mexican. I've never been oppressed before. I've never been called any racial slurs. I've never been discriminated against. I'm a minority. I'm a Mexican. I'm a low-class individual, and I've never been depressed. I've just never been oppressed before. And like, I've written about Native Americans, I've written about blacks, I've written about Asian people. I'm gonna write whatever the fuck I want, and you can't restrict me on that, okay? I'll write whatever the fuck I want, okay? And you cannot stop me. You cannot fucking stop me from writing my stories of people of different colors or just white people. And you can't say that only people of color can write these because they're the only race that have ever been repressed or some shit. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I'll write whatever the fuck I want, and people will write whatever the fuck they want. It doesn't fucking matter. That point is so illogical and stupid, and the most dumbest things I've ever fucking read regarding about Transformers. That these are alien robots. These are fucking alien robots. So stop applying human culture or human ideologies into these robots, because they live in a totally different planet with different fucking values and different morality. So it don't matter. It don't fucking matter. These writers can write whatever the fuck they want, and you can't restrict them with that, because if you do, then you are oppressing them. And that's something you're trying to prevent. But what is that? What is that logic? Everything is bullshit, honestly. So that's what I really want to talk about, and like that's another paper of them talking about Decepticonism, but I already talked about it in this video, so I'm done. Go on with the little video. I don't want to talk about Prime Wars because I hate it. We all know it's bad, and even mentioning it is bad. Well, we all agreed that Megatron was the only best thing in the series. Design, awesome. That scar makes him look so hot. His personality is so goofy. I have never seen a goofy and funny Megatron that throws shades at people and is very, very sassy. I love a funny Megatron. We need more funny Megatron. Prime Wars Megatron could be serious and goofy at the same time. I especially love this scene. That was my favorite part, by the way. I love him. The best thing out of that hellhole. Don't watch the show though. Watch this video, please. On November 11, 2022, Transformers Earthspark made a mark for the right and wrong reasons that I already talked about. But this video is about Megatron, not Nightshade. In my opinion, it's a decent show, and the show is still ongoing, so I hope it goes well. Earthspark Megatron is voiced by Roy McCann, who is mostly an actor rather than a voice actor. He has done other voice acting gigs, but he is known to be an actor. Roy McCann's voice for Megatron is so different from other Megatron voices. Firstly, he is Scottish, and because of that, he gave Megatron a deep Scottish accent, and it's so damn sexy. I never even considered a Scottish Megatron, but there it is, and it's so fine. Love it. 10 out of 10. So we don't really know the origins of Megatron during the time of this recording. Earthspark hasn't released a second season yet, so I assume it is the same reason as G1 since they use G1 references. Again, we don't know what caused the war, so I assume that Decepticonism in Earthspark means to conquer and supremacy. We don't see how Megatron was as a character when he was a Decepticon, but based on other people, more specifically from Starscream, he was ruthless like his usual Megatron self. But so much so that Starscream was traumatized by him. I'm starting to see a pattern that most telling of Transformers media is based around IDW's incarnation of these characters. Hell, even design-wise. I'm only saying this because IDW Starscream has been traumatized by Megatron as well, so I assume Megatron's personality is on the same level as IDW Megatron, just all in all evil and insane person. So let's talk about current Earthspark Megatron's personality. I mentioned this in my top 10 reasons why I love Megatron, but when Megatron is not an evil villain, his character is more fleshed out and well developed. Megatron's personality here is that of IDW Megatron in the beginning when he was an Autobot. He is skeptical, funny, wonderful, beautiful. Earthspark Megatron's design was obviously inspired by IDW's Megatron and G1 Megatron, so it's automatically good. Sexy, hot. attractive, handsome, fucking... One of Earthspark Megatron's badass moments is when he fights Blitzwing. The action of this show is alright, but it's different from the other bland fights in other Transformers media, because they actually use their alt modes in their fights. Something that I don't see a lot in Transformers, ironically enough. There's nothing really much to say about this scene, I just fucking love it. He's just beating the shit out of Slipstream and the other chick, I forgot the name of her. You can probably tell I'm fucking done with this shit. But yeah, that's about it. That's one of my favorite scenes, to be honest, out of that shit show. I just fucking love it. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for over 500 subscribers. And thank you so much for subscribing, liking, and possibly sharing. I don't know if you guys do that, but whatever. Stay awesome, guys, and bye!